Bound by Fate. Part 2, The Price of Protection. Morning light filtered through paper screens like whispered secrets. Imani woke disoriented, forgetting for 3 blissful seconds where she was. Then memory crashed down. The hospital, the king, the impossible pregnancy growing inside her. She touched her stomach, still flat, still unchanged. What am I going to do with you? The baby didn't answer. Babies never did. A soft knock at the door made her tense. Yes. A young woman entered, barely 20, with nervous eyes. She bowed so low Imani worried she'd hurt her back. Good morning, Miss Kenyan. I've been assigned as your attendant. I don't need an attendant. His Majesty insists. Suyun straightened, revealing a kind face. I've prepared your bath. Breakfast will be served in 30 minutes. Is there anything else you require? My freedom, Imani thought. My old life back. A time machine. No. Thank you. After Suyun left, Imani explored her prison. The bathroom was marble and gold, the tub large enough to swim in. Clean clothes had been laid out, traditional hanbok in deep blue, modern clothes in her exact size. Someone had been thorough. She chose jeans and a simple shirt, a small rebellion against the silk cage around her. The breakfast that arrived could have fed 5 people. Rice, soup, grilled fish, banchan in a dozen varieties, and yes, impossibly, chapati and a bowl of something that looked like ugali. Imani stared at the Kenyan food, tears stinging her eyes. He'd actually done it. The king who'd imprisoned her had somehow found ingredients for food from home within 12 hours. She ate the chapati slowly, tasting Kenya in every bite. Her mother's kitchen, Akinyi's laughter, the life she'd left behind. Damn him, she whispered. Damn him for being thoughtful while keeping me prisoner. Across the palace, Jin Pyong sat through the morning briefing without hearing a word. Minister Hong droned about trade negotiations, but all Jin Pyong could think about was whether she'd eaten the food he'd ordered. Why did he care? He was a complication. A scandal waiting to explode. The mother of his heir, nothing more. Except when he closed his eyes he saw her tears. Heard her voice breaking as she said, "You've violated me. Your Majesty?" Hong's voice cut through his thoughts. The council is asking about the foreign guest in the East Wing. Jin Pyong's eyes snapped up. Who told them? No one had to tell them. This is a palace, sir. Servants talk. Security noticed. Questions are being asked. Then provide answers that satisfy without revealing truth. She's a visiting scholar studying Korean culture. Under my personal protection during her research. They'll want to meet her. No, the word came out sharp as a blade. She's recovering from illness. No visitors. Hong's expression said everything his mouth wouldn't. This was unsustainable, dangerous, bound to explode. How long do you think you can hide her? Hong asked quietly. As long as necessary. And when her pregnancy becomes visible. When the child is born. What then? Jin Pyong had no answers. For the first time in his carefully controlled life he was improvising, reacting human. It terrified him. I need to see her, he said suddenly. This morning. Arrange it. Is that wise? Nothing about this situation is wise. Jin Pyong stood. But she's carrying my child. We should speak. Properly. Hong's eyebrows rose. In 3 years Jin Pyong had avoided every personal conversation, every emotional engagement. Now he was volunteering for the most complicated one imaginable. I'll inform her attendant. Imani was writing in her notebook, the story pouring out faster than she could capture it, when Suyun returned, visibly nervous. Miss? His Majesty requests your presence in the garden. If you're feeling well enough. Requests or demands? He said he hopes you'll join him. That he'd like to speak with you. Properly. Suyun twisted her hands. He's never said anything like that before. Usually he just commands. Imani closed her notebook. Part of her wanted to refuse, to make him come to her, to assert whatever tiny scrap of control she had left. But another part, the writer in her, the woman who dreamed of Korean romance, was curious. Who was Kim Jin Pyong when he wasn't being a king? Fine. Lead the way. The palace gardens were autumn perfect, maple leaves burning red and gold, a pond with koi the size of small dogs, stone paths winding through carefully cultivated nature. And at the center, on a bench beside the water, sat the king. He'd changed from his formal robes into simple dark pants and a linen shirt. Without the royal trappings, he looked younger, more human. Still devastatingly handsome. The dramas hadn't lied about that. But also tired, carved hollow by something Imani was only beginning to understand. He stood when he saw her, an automatic gesture of courtesy that surprised them both. "You came. Did I have a choice?" "Yes." His voice was firm. "You always have a choice here. I know you don't believe that, but it's true. Accept the choice to leave. Accept that." He gestured to the bench. "Will you sit? Please." That word again, please star. As if it cost him something. Imani sat, keeping careful distance between them. The morning air was cool, carrying the scent of chrysanthemums. Under different circumstances this might have been romantic. Under these circumstances, it was just surreal. "You ate the chapati," Jin Pyong said. It wasn't a question. "How did you know?" "I asked Siyun to report if you ate anything. Not to spy," he added quickly, "but to know if you were well enough. If the food was acceptable." "It was." Imani kept her voice neutral. "Thank you. You shouldn't thank me for basic decency. In my experience, basic decency is rare. Especially from men with power." The words hung between them, sharp with history he didn't know and she wasn't ready to share. Jin Pyong's jaw tightened. "Dr. Yoon told me, not the details but enough. About what happened to you 3 years ago. The assault." Imani's whole body went rigid. She had no right. She had every right. "You're under medical care and your history is relevant. But that's not why I'm mentioning it." He turned to face her fully, his dark eyes intense. "I want you to know that what was done to you both then and now is unconscionable. And while I can't undo it, I can promise you this. You're safe here. From me. From everyone. No one will touch you without your consent. No one will violate you again. I give you my word." The sincerity in his voice cracked something in Imani's armor. "Your word? What's that worth when you're keeping me prisoner?" Protection and imprisonment look the same from the inside. Jin Pyong's voice softened. "But the intent is different. I'm not your enemy, Imani." It was the first time he'd used her name. The sound of it in his accent, sent unexpected warmth through her chest. "Then what are you?" "I don't know yet." He looked out at the pond where koi circled in endless patterns. 3 years ago I was engaged to a woman I loved more than duty, more than throne, more than my own life. Her name was Yoon. She was light and laughter and everything this palace isn't. Imani listened, silent, sensing he needed to say this. There was a political faction that wanted me to abdicate. To modernize the monarchy out of existence. I refused. I believed tradition mattered more than convenience. His voice cracked. They killed her to punish me. Made it look like an accident, but everyone knew. Everyone knows. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was my fault. My pride, my stubbornness, my belief that duty was more important than the woman I loved. He turned back to her and Imani saw the wound in his eyes, still fresh, still bleeding. After she died, I locked myself away. Became what you see now, cold, controlled, empty. I refused to marry, to love, to risk anyone else. But the throne requires an heir, so I chose the safest option. A surrogate. Clinical. Distant. No emotions involved. And then the hospital made a mistake. And then the universe laughed at my plans. Something almost like a smile touched his lips. You came into my life in the worst possible way. You're everything I didn't plan for. Foreign, angry, complicated, human. And you're carrying my child. So what do we do now? Imani asked quietly. I don't know. I've spent 3 years knowing exactly what to do, following protocols written centuries ago. But there's no protocol for this. For you. He paused. Tell me about yourself. Who is Imani Wanjiru when she's not pregnant with the king's accidental heir? The question caught her off guard. Why do you care? Because you're not just an incubator. You're a person. And if we're bound together for 9 months, I should at least know who you are. Imani studied him. This man who'd imprisoned her, who'd ordered Kenyan food, who looked at her like she was human instead of a problem to solve. I'm a writer, she said finally. Or trying to be. I've been rejected by every publisher in Kenya, but I keep writing because it's the only thing that's ever felt true. I came here to make money for my family, but also because she hesitated, embarrassed. Because you what? Because I loved K-dramas. Because I romanticized this country and its culture. Because I thought maybe somehow I'd find something magical here. She laughed bitterly. Careful what you wish for, right? What do you write about? Love stories. Impossible romances. People from different worlds finding each other. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. Jin Pyong was quiet for a long moment. And now you're living one. This isn't a love story. This is a tragedy. Perhaps. He stood, offering his hand to help her up, then caught himself remembering her boundaries and lowered it. Or perhaps it hasn't been written yet. You're the author after all. Imani rose without his help, but something in his gesture, the awareness, the respect, softened her anger fractionally. I have a request, she said. Anything. I want internet access. My own laptop. And I want to be able to call my family whenever I need to. They're worried. They deserve to know I'm, if not okay, then at least alive. Done. I'll have equipment brought this afternoon. Jin Pyong paused. And I'd like to make another request if I may. What? Have dinner with me. Tonight. Not as king and prisoner, but as two people trying to figure out an impossible situation. He met her eyes. Please. There was that word again. And this time, Imani heard the vulnerability beneath it. A man who'd forgotten how to ask instead of command, learning the language of equals. One condition, she said. Name it. We eat Kenyan food. Not Korean. I want you to taste my world since I'm stuck in yours. Something lit in Jin Pyong's eyes. Surprise, respect, maybe even the ghost of amusement. Agreed. Word of the breakfast request spread through the palace like wildfire. By noon the kitchen staff was in chaos. Ugali? What is ugali? The head chef, a man who'd trained in Paris and Tokyo, stared at the ingredients list like it was written in code. It's cornmeal, Seon explained, reading from her phone. Cooked with water until it's thick. Simple. Nothing is simple. The chef threw his hands up. His Majesty requests exotic African cuisine for dinner with the mysterious foreign woman, and I'm supposed to make it perfect with no training? This is disaster. But he was a professional. By evening the kitchen had produced a feast. Ugali and sukuma wiki, nyama choma, kachumbari, chapati fresh and hot. It smelled like home, like Kenya, like everything Imani had left behind. Imani dressed carefully for dinner, choosing a traditional Kenyan kaitenj dress she'd brought from home. If Jin Pyong wanted to know her world, he'd see it in full color. The private dining room was intimate, just a low table, cushions and paper screens filtering the evening light. Jin Pyong was already there, still in simple clothes, looking uncomfortable and human. His eyes widened when he saw her dress. You're beautiful. The words slipped out unguarded and Imani saw him realize what he'd said. Saw the flush creep up his neck. Thank you. She sat across from him, careful to maintain distance. Ready to taste Kenya? Should I be nervous? Terrified. But she smiled slightly and for a moment the tension between them eased. Servants brought the food, dish after dish of Imani's homeland. Jin Pyong stared at the ugali like it might bite him. You eat it with your hands, Imani demonstrated, pinching off a piece and using it to scoop sukuma wiki. Like this. It's not delicate or refined. Real. Honest. Jin Pyong watched, then mimicked her movement. His first bite was cautious. His second more confident. It's good, he said, surprised. Different from Korean food but good. Earthy. That's Kenya. Earthy. Strong. Survivors. Imani took another bite. We've been colonized, divided, exploited. But we're still here. Still fighting. Still hopeful. Like you. Like me, she agreed quietly. They ate in silence for a while, the food bridging the space between their worlds. Tell me about your family, Jin Pyong said eventually. You mentioned them before. Your sister, Akinyi. She's 22 studying to be a teacher. She believes in fairy tales and happy endings. She's the optimist in the family. Imani's voice warmed. My mother is a seamstress. Strong woman. Had to be raising 4 kids after my father got sick. My younger brothers are still in school. Smart kids. They deserve better than they've gotten. And your father? Diabetes. The medication is expensive. That's why I took this job. The salary could cover his treatment and the boys' school fees. She met Jin Pyong's eyes. That's why I can't just leave even if I wanted to. My family depends on that money. Understanding dawned on Jin Pyong's face. You'll still receive it. The full salary plus additional compensation for everything. I'll arrange it tonight. I don't want your guilt money. It's not guilt. It's what you're owed. What you were promised. His voice was firm. Your family won't suffer because of my mistakes. Imani's throat tightened. Thank you. They ate more, the silence more comfortable now. What was she like? Imani asked suddenly. Lady Yoon. Your fiancé. Jin Pyong's hands stilled. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, she was my opposite. Warm where I was cold. Spontaneous where I was planned. She'd dance in the rain and laugh when I worried about protocol. His voice was soft, full of memory. She saw me. Not the king, not the heir, just me. Jin Pyong. The man who was terrified of failing his ancestors but also terrified of becoming them. You loved her very much. I loved her more than I knew how to say. And when I lost her, I locked everything away. Decided it was safer to feel nothing than to risk that pain again. Is it? Imani asked. Safer. Jin Pyong looked at her, really looked at her. This woman in her bright dress, carrying his child, asking questions no one else dared ask. No, he admitted. It's not safer. It's just slower death. The honesty between them felt fragile, precious. I'm scared, Imani confessed. Of this pregnancy. Of being a mother. But what happens after? I don't know how to do any of this. Neither do I. Jin Pyong's hand moved across the table, not touching her, but close enough to offer comfort without violating her space. But perhaps we can be scared together. Perhaps that's enough. Imani looked at his hand inches from hers. It would be so easy to close the distance. To accept comfort. To let herself believe this could be something other than a tragedy. But trust wasn't built in one dinner. And her heart still carried scars from the last time she'd let herself be vulnerable with a man. I need time, she said softly. You have it. All the time you need. They talked for hours. About Kenya and Korea, about writing and duty, about dreams deferred and lives interrupted. By the time the moon rose high, they'd become something unexpected. Not friends, not yet. Not enemies, no longer. Just 2 people bound by biology and circumstance, learning to see each other as human. When Imani finally returned to her rooms, Suyun was waiting with a laptop, a phone with international calling and a message. His Majesty had these prepared. The internet is unrestricted. Call whoever you need whenever you need. Imani held the laptop like a lifeline. Thank you. Alone, she opened it and found it already configured, email set up, even her manuscript from her old laptop somehow transferred over. He'd thought of everything. Damn him, she thought again. Damn him for making this complicated. She called Akinyi. Imani. Are you okay? I've been so worried. I'm okay. Sort of. It's complicated. Tell me everything. So she did. The dinner, the conversation, the way Jin Pyong looked at her like she was a person instead of a problem. Imani, Akinyi said carefully when she finished, you know what this sounds like, right? Don't. It sounds like the beginning of something. It's not. It can't be. He's grieving his dead fiancé. I'm traumatized from Jacob. We're impossible. The best love stories usually are. This isn't a love story. Not yet, Akinyi said, echoing Jin Pyong's words from that morning. But it could be. If you let it. After they hung up, Imani opened her manuscript. The romance she'd been writing before Korea, the one publishers kept rejecting, felt hollow now. She opened a new document and titled it, Bound by Fate. Chapter 1. A Woman Out of Place. She arrived in his world uninvited, unexpected and entirely unwanted. He'd built walls so high that even birds couldn't fly over them. But biology doesn't respect boundaries. And sometimes the heart finds cracks in even the strongest fortress. The words flowed like water, like prophecy, like possibility. In his own chambers, Jin Pyong stood before Lady Yoon's portrait one more time. I had dinner with her tonight, he said to the painted eyes. The woman carrying my child. Her name is Imani. She's nothing like you. She's fierce and wounded and angry. She challenges me. Makes me feel things I thought I'd buried with you. The portrait stared back unchanging. I don't know what this is. I don't know if I'm betraying your memory by letting her into my thoughts. But she's here. And she's carrying my child. And for the first time in 3 years I felt something. Not happiness, not yet. But possibility. He touched the frame gently. I'll always love you. You'll always be the woman who saw me first. But Yoon, I'm so tired of being empty. I'm so tired of this frozen existence. The portrait offered no answers. The dead never did. Jin Pyong turned away and found himself walking, not to his bedroom but through the palace corridors, drawn by something he didn't want to name. He stopped outside the east wing. Inside he could see the faint glow of a laptop screen. Imani was awake, typing furiously, her face illuminated by blue light. Writing her stories. Creating worlds where she had control, where endings could be happy. He should leave. Should give her privacy. But he stood there for long minutes, watching her create magic from pain, wondering if somehow, impossibly, they could write a different ending than either of them expected. Your Majesty? Jin Pyong turned to find Dr. Yoon in the corridor, medical bag in hand. I was just checking on Ms. Wanjiru. Making sure she's settling in. She is. We had dinner together. She's remarkable. Dr. Yoon smiled, sad and knowing. My niece would have liked her. They're different but similar where it counts. Both strong. Both capable of seeing past your walls. I'm not. You are. And it's okay to be. 3 years is long enough to mourn, Jin Pyong. Yoon wouldn't want you frozen forever. How do you know what she'd want? Because she loved you. And love wants the beloved to live, not just survive. After Dr. Yoon left, Jin Pyong lingered one moment more, watching Imani write, watching her live despite everything. Then he returned to his own chambers, to his own empty bed, and for the first time in 3 years, fell asleep thinking about the future instead of drowning in the past. But not everyone in the palace was sleeping. In a small office tucked away from the main corridors, Minister Hong made a phone call to a number he'd hoped never to use. It's me, he said quietly. We have a situation. A foreign woman. Pregnant with his heir. It's complicated. The voice on the other end was sharp, calculating. How complicated? She's African. Kenyan. And she's staying in the palace. He's protecting her. Getting attached. That can't happen. You know what's at stake. I know. Hong's voice was heavy. But he's my friend. I won't. You'll do what's necessary. For the throne. For tradition. For Korea. The voice turned cold. Find a way to make her leave. Quietly. Before this becomes a scandal that destroys everything we've built. And if she won't leave, then make her disappear. Permanently. The line went dead. Hong sat in the darkness, loyalty and duty warring in his chest, wondering which would win and what the cost would be. In the east wing, Imani paused in her writing, sudden chills racing down her spine. She moved to the window and looked out at the dark gardens, at the beautiful prison surrounding her. Somewhere in this palace, danger was stirring. She didn't know it yet. But she would learn soon enough that in royal courts, even the most innocent can become targets. And that Kim Jin Pyong's protection might not be enough to save her from what was coming. End of part 2. Next time on Bound by Fate. Trust is a fragile thing. Betrayal comes from unexpected places. And Imani discovers that the greatest danger in the palace might be wearing a friend's face.